Okay, Ally's first. I said
Sally,
Ally's
how
first.
This is, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's no camera tonight. I need a head,
Oh, yeah.
headshot, really.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah.
I just switched around that. The chamber has a pose for a photo.
We'll now call to order the meeting of the Winter City Council on Tuesday, February 18th, 2020, 6:30 p.m. Casey, do we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Lauren.
Here.
Councilmember New.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cowan.
Here.
Mayor Biaggi.
Here. Mr. Vlasic, could you lead us in the pledge of allegiance, please?
I'd be happy to. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we have approval of the agenda.
Mayor and council, there are no changes to the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Passes unanimously. Next, we have council and staff comments. Councilmember Lauren.
All right. Our last council meeting was February 4th. Since February 4th, on February 6th, I toured local business trash dumpsters with John Pickerel, and it was my pleasure. We talked about bringing a modern and fair solution to business trash and our recycling situation. And I will just say it's complicated. On February 10th, I had a conference call with the Sacramento Valley region of the League of Cities over planning our future calendar of events. Later that day at 4:30, I met with Matthew from Davis about candidate night that's coming. At 5, I attended the Chamber of Commerce mixer at the Pizza Factory, along with many fine winners folk. At 7, I attended the Yolo County Transit District meeting. We're reviewing long-term goals and priorities and the efficacy of many programs. We also had quite a long closed session meeting, of course, with nothing to report. The Yolo County Transit District, by the way, will be having a public meeting in Winters in March, but I haven't heard what date that is, but it will be really nice to have a good turnout to talk about our services. On, let's see, I had to look at this. Okay, February 13th, I participated in an interview with Crystal Avalato from Winters Express. At 5:30, Mayor Pro Tem Cowan and I attended the Valley Clean Energy meeting in Davis. Overall, we discussed that PG&E's bankruptcy and the CPUC are both affecting clean energy solutions. Also, we have an opportunity for you. We are looking for one more volunteer from our community to serve on Valley Clean Energy. So if you're interested in serving for Valley Clean Energy as a volunteer representing our area, you could talk to me, you could talk to Mayor Pro Tem Cowan, or you could talk to Tracy Jensen. On February 8th, 15th, and 16th, I had a bunch of coffee meetings with constituents who voiced opinions about growth and affordable housing and traffic and the 220 bus. And it was really fun. And on February 17th, I met with our city manager to review tonight's agenda. And today, February 18th, I had a joint meeting with the Water Resource Agency and the Sustainable Groundwater Agency Executive Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. One meeting to report. One meeting to report is last Thursday, February 13th. I attended the Lower Prairie Creek Council Coordinating Committee meeting in Vacaville. It was held at the Sonoma County Water Agency. and from 2:30 to 5. And that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember New.
Thank you. On Thursday, Thursday the 6th, I attended the SACOG Land Use and Natural Resources meeting in Sacramento. Again, talking about how we can best utilize the building in the Sacramento area, which includes us, and cut down on miles driven. On the 10th, which is a Monday, I met with Jack Vickery from First Northern Bank, looking for funding sources for seismic retrofitting. He is checking with his major, his top branch officials, see if there's anything they can do. On the 13th, I met about uses for the First Street Church, the one on First Street, it's Second and Main. It's vacant now, and it's just a great building, and trying to find uses that it could be put to. Anybody that wants to do something with it, but it will require a good deal of money. And then I also met this morning with our city manager and discussed tonight's agenda.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Kellogg.
Thank you, Mayor. On the 9th, I attended a Youth Day meeting. Things are moving along for this year's celebration. On the 10th, Council Member Lauren and I met to discuss the upcoming vacancy on the Planning Commission. And then also on the 10th, I attended the Chamber Mixer at the Pizza Factory. On the 11th, I had a meeting with Chief Miller. And then on the 12th, I had a meeting with Robert Duvall and a donor about the possibility of getting Robert and Kepe a newer vehicle that is better equipped for them. So crossing my fingers, we're able to make that happen real soon. Also on the 12th, I attended a meeting with the city manager and chamber executive director to discuss a possible state of the city luncheon at the public safety facility. And it's tentatively set up for May the 13th. I think 11:30 to 1:30 is what they just said. On the 13th, as Jesse mentioned, I attended the BCE meeting, and that position we're looking to fill is for the Community Action Committee. So it's they have the BCE board, and then they have this Community Action Committee that basically reviews everything the board does prior to the board doing it. So, and gives advice to the full board. So, like Councilmember Lauren mentioned, we're looking for one more person from Winners to put on that committee right away. So anybody interested, let one of us know. And earlier today, I met with the city manager to review tonight's agenda. That's all I have.
Thank you. On February 5th, I attended the State of the City Luncheon in Davis. Went along with the Chamber Executive Director and the Chamber President and Winners, and went over there to see kind of how they do it. And as Mayor Pro Tem Callen said, the Chamber in Winners is planning one of those coming up in the near future. So it was good to hear all the various projects that they have going in town, what they're doing for new housing projects and other things downtown. On the 10th of February, I attended the Chamber Mixer at the Pizza Factory. It was also co-hosted by Anytime Fitness. On the 11th, I met with Matt Williams to talk about the candidate forum discussion, questions that we have. On the 13th, I did an interview with the Express editor. On the 14th, I attended the Chamber Board meeting. And on the 14th, I met with the city manager and we went over the agenda. Thank you everyone for all your time and the committee work. Much appreciated. Okay, at this time, we'll move on to public comments or anything that is not on tonight's agenda. There's forms in the back that you can fill out. I have a number of them that were turned in already. If you would like to speak, fill one of these out and pass that to the front. I will start with the first one that I have here. It's Daniel Williams.
Yes.
Come to the microphone and come up to the microphone,
Okay.
state your name and your address.
My name is Daniel Williams. This is my first meeting, and I find it quite interesting so far. I was asked to come to a meeting through an email, so I decided to come because I do like the city of Winters, the town of Winters, and would like to keep it growing at a steady pace. This large development outside of town, I think, would be too much too soon. I'm from Long Beach, California, and that being a big city got even bigger in the 80s when they tore down hundreds of homes and put up hundreds of multi-units. And it clogged the city in every way with crime, because there was Section 8. They turned it to Section 8 because they couldn't rent it. Anyway, the list goes on and on. So it's just a concern. I've seen too much too soon and what it can do. And that's why I'm here. Say my piece. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Bill Legatuda.
Thank you. I'd like to say good evening to the council, manager, and clerk. I spoke to you a little bit last week, and I just wanted to come and tell you a little bit more about the initiative that we plan on placing on the November ballot with regards to future annexation in Winters. I wanted to assure all of you, in case you didn't know or didn't think so, that those of us who are putting this forth are very serious, and we take a responsibility very seriously, because we know that if this does take place, if we are successful, it will change the way things happen in Winters going forward in the long term. This we understand very seriously. I wanted to announce to you that on March 4th, 2 weeks from tomorrow, we will present our documents and our city fee to the city clerk, and it will be official. 15 days later, 15 days following that, we will begin circulating petitions on this initiative. I would also like to respectfully request, I'm not quite sure how to do this, but I'll just ask. I'd like one, two, or perhaps all of you to ask the city staff if it would be possible to schedule a presentation at a regular city council meeting for those of us that keep Winters Winters, so that we may explain to you exactly who we are and why we're doing this. And the reason I think this is important is because once we gather the requisite number of signatures, and once they're verified by the county, this measure, this amendment to the general plan will come before the 5 of you. And at a regular city council meeting in early summer, perhaps as early as the first week in July, you will be asked to either pass this into law with 3 votes or to certify it for the November 3rd ballot. And for that reason, we would love the opportunity to explain in detail or answer any questions you might have in order that you may be as completely informed as we hope that you will be. We're not as cute and cuddly as Kepi the dog, but I noticed that he's here for another presentation and he's gotten a couple already, so we really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you for letting me speak tonight.
Thank you. Okay, up next, I have Stephanie Gale.
Hello, good evening, I'm Bethany Gale, and I'm here in support of the Keep Winters Initiative. I love Winters very much, as you all do, and I'm not anti-growth. I am supportive of smart and sustainable growth. I think that's really important for the health of our city and for future generations here. But I am hesitant to see that much growth at once, and so for me, this is really about giving the citizens of Winters a voice in the decision to develop outside of our current city limits. And yeah, that's where I stand on that. So thank you very much.
Next, I have Marcia Gibbs.
Marcia Gibbs, 204 Main Street. Beginning in August of 2018, I participated in the city-organized Economic Development Advisory Committee. This was a compilation of business owners, residents, and community members who were organized to work on providing recommendations to the City of Winters to advance the economics of the city. The committee held 7 meetings that focused on a variety of topics, including fundamentals of winter's economy, zoning and land use, regional issues, and collaborations to generate ideas for increasing economic viability. Working with the city manager and with notes from the meetings, Sandy Vickery and I helped prepare the draft final report that was presented to the committee on February 21st, 2019. On June 3rd, 2019, a joint meeting of the Planning Commission and the City Council was held to present the findings of the report. The meeting was open to the public and the report was also released to the public for viewing. And to quote from the executive summary, the EDAC, as we were called, has formulated recommendations to enable the city to work within the existing planning area to bolster the local economy while maximizing the opportunities for smart, sustainable, and prudent development to generate jobs, expand local investment, and increase local revenues. Some of the recommendations that were made by the committee included the following. The first was Economic Development Office/Coordinator. A collaboration between the city, the chamber, and the general business community to actively recruit new and desirable businesses to town. A dedicated office somewhere within the downtown core to meet with prospective businesses, property owners, and to be a hub for economic activity. This would include the hire of an economic development manager or a coordinator who dedicated considerable time and effort to economic recruitment. B was the establishment of a red team for business recruitment. Establish a collaboration of key community representatives to form an active recruitment group to meet with prospective businesses. This would include representatives from the chamber, the city council, the school district, and the general and ag business communities. C was economic development partnerships. Work with the regional collaborators such as Solano College and the Solano Economic Development Corporation to maximize outreach and business development opportunities. And D was working with key stakeholders the city to identify key businesses and industries and recruit support for both the agricultural and the visitor serving sectors. So as part of that committee and as the committee as a whole, we did some dedicated work, we thought, I think, for the city of Winters, and I was hopeful that these ideas would be useful in furthering economic development within the city. As of this date, I'm not aware of any other recommendations that have been acted on. So I'm just here to ask you if any of you can kind of further this on and let us know what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Ellie Yateman.
Ellie Yateman. I live on Abbey Street, not too far from here. I'm here to support the Keep Winters movement, if that's what it is, because I have seen so much change in Northern California since I came here in 1970. And I love Winters better than any place I have ever lived. It's so important to me to keep the character of this beautiful town the way it is. I know that change is inevitable and that the young will reap the benefits of what we do now. My time here is to be spent preserving what we have. I volunteer at Meals on Wheels, and I was looking at the food today and thinking, where does this food come from? It comes from our agricultural land surrounding us. The beauty of it and the utility of it is so precious to me that I would hate to see it destroyed by planning that is not careful and judicious. That is why I speak for the Keep Winters Winters. I would like to have a say in that planning. And if that is possible, I will be here to speak. thank you very much. I appreciate the work that our city council does. John Dunleavy, everyone is in it together, and I feel very deeply about this town. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Kate Madish.
Thank you, Mayor. Kate Laddish, 400 Morgan Street, number 21. And let's see, I'd like to start by thanking City Manager John Dunleavy for his weekly Friday updates. I really appreciate them. It's an excellent roundup of what's going on in the city and what projects are coming up. And so I was interested this last week to read that the city is pursuing getting automated license plate readers along Grant Avenue and plans to meet with Caltrans about that. Sources as varied as Car and Driver Magazine, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and the nonpartisan American Civil Liberties Union have all expressed deep concern about the automated license plate readers, both because of the mass surveillance that they do, that they are designed to do, and because of both potential and documented problems as these have gone into one of our cities. One example, very striking example, is that ICE has accessed the privately held data that's collected by these. It's billions of points, billions of data points, and they use it to locate and arrest people who are in communities without documentation. And this has happened even in instances of cities that have adopted so-called sanctuary resolutions. So once the data is out there, then the city doesn't really control how it is used or who is able to access it. My understanding is that automated license plate readers require a privacy policy, and I would hope that if the city decides to pursue this, that crafting the privacy policy would be a very public process. I very much appreciate Winters Police Department and city staff working to keep people safe and considering different options for that. And since he's here, I'll also thank Chief Miller for coming and speaking with the group earlier this year. I really appreciate that. But my request to council is that council direct staff to bring the possibility of putting automated license plate readers to council before requesting a meeting with Caltrans, so that there can be a public discussion about this. And it's a big decision, and it's one of those genies that once it's let out of the bottle, unintended consequences can happen. And so I think we would all benefit from just having a public discussion about this before we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next I have Tina Loudon.
Tina Loudon, 320 Neiman Street, and then there's all the almond orchards. You know I'm part of the KWW2. I bike, I walk, I play in Winters. I love Winters. My husband and I, Winters, we're very active with the different senior organizations, and we really would like the city council, and you guys work so hard. I can't believe you volunteer so much. We really, what Bill said, really look at what the KWW is all about. The other article is Census 2020. We need money. Yolo County needs money, please. Census 2020 is coming. I have stickers for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on an item that's not on tonight's agenda?
Yeah.
Okay, please come up to the microphone, state your name and your address, please.
My name is Will Meikle, 11215 Grant Avenue, Winters. I moved here from Southern California. As some of you people know, I am renovating my house at the moment. After living here for 6 years, my wife and I love this city. This is a unique place to live. I've lived and worked all over the world, and I decided to retire here. I left Huntington Beach after 20 years. And as a gentleman before me said, talking about Long Beach, I can also tell you what happened in Huntington Beach. Huntington Beach has been destroyed with overdevelopment. The land values went crazy. I bought a house in 1987 for $450,000. It's just sold for $1.6 million. Now, San Francisco, and everybody's talking about the computer geeks and all that there, and San Francisco is basically outrageous for housing. And I know for a fact there's people that live and work in the San Francisco area are looking at buying properties here. That's great for the developer, but it's not great for the people that love winters. I'm here as part of the Keep Winters Winters, and I'll do everything in my power to keep winters winters. To people that haven't lived overseas, I've lived in Australia, worked in the Middle East, worked in Central Asia. This place is special. And at the moment, we can afford to live here. If we continue with this unabated growth, we all know we need growth, but we need to just put the brakes on things and really think about what we're doing. And my wife is sorry she couldn't be here tonight. We've been working outside framing all day. That's why I got a little bit burned today. But I love it here. I really want to keep it here the way it is. Slow, guided development. And the people have to be involved, the amount of development, the type of development, and where we go from here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak tonight? Okay, and then we'll move on to the consent calendar. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. We appreciate it. Consent calendar.
Mayor and Council, just a couple of items. Item A and B. Item A is the return of the minutes from the joint workshop with the City Council and Planning Commission. What we did was we included literally every comment that was provided in there. We didn't take anything else, so everybody got to see all the goofy stuff that people put in. Item B are the minutes from the regular meeting on February 4th. Item C is the acceptance of the capital project for the construction of the First Street parking lot across the street. This starts the timing for both the general contractor and any subcontractors on the project to make claims, and we'll wrap the project up. So consent calendar.
Any questions on the consent calendar? Yes. Item C. Due to your location, you have property within a certain distance there, so Councilmember Anderson will not be voting on item C on the consent calendar.
I'll move to consent calendar.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Up next, we have a presentation by Ron Turner, President of the 100 Club of Solano and Yolo counties. Ron?
All right. Let me look a little bit closer at where I can, everybody can hear me. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, and the audience. I'm Ron Turner, and I'm the president of the 100 Club of Solano and Yolo counties. Just going to give you a real brief picture of the organization. So we're a 501c3, a police, fire, first responder organization, and that in the case of a firefighter or a police officer that dies in the line of duty, our goal is to address the immediate needs of the family within the first 72 hours by getting a $20,000 check to the family member, the spouse, where they can start planning the funerals and those unfortunate types of details. Unfortunately, we were called into service when we lost Kurt Grease, CHP officer, and also with Natalie Corona. And because the community has responded so graciously, we've been able to fulfill that responsibility. But also one of the caveats that this organization has as part of its bylaws is that we have a program to address community needs, and our big goal is to keep kids in school. And so we make it our second mission to do what we can to support private schools, public schools, any type of trade that will give a young man or woman the skills that they need to become better citizens. And that's one of the things that we've been able to do through the gracious donations of business owners and community members. And so tonight, we have the opportunity to present a check based upon a donation that we received from the from Kaiser Foundation, Kaiser Permanente. And so because we've recognized and identified one of the members of your great police department, Robert Duvall and Kepi, and I don't know which one comes first. I think Kepi comes first. And sorry, Robert. And so let me have Margie and Ron Keck come up and make the presentation.
I'm Margie Keck. When members of the 100 Club of Solano and Yolo County became aware of Chaplain Robert Duvall and K9 Kepi and the calming work that they were doing, we had hopes of partnering with them in our work of supporting the families of first responders who died in the line of duty. We've attended the same events for years, and our paths have crossed numerous times. Last year, we nominated both for the annual Kaiser First Responder of the Year Award, and we're pleased to be at Hidden Brook where they were honored. Therefore, Robert and Kepi are the 100 Club of Solano and Yolo Counties community recipients of $1,500 for their tireless dedication of giving. This is to the city of winners.
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah. We don't have any of it. Yeah. We don't have any of it.
Tell everybody what you're doing and
So for those of us that don't know what Kepi and I do, we are a crisis intervention team. Kepi is the first canine trained as a pheromone detection dog, which means that she can detect PTSD, stress, anxiety, depression, primarily in first responders. We're not always good about being honest about how we're doing after especially critical incidents. So that's what we've been doing for the last 4 years here. And a lot of the resources, right now, Winters is the only agency, even though we cover close to 60 agencies between Yolo and Solano counties. Winters provides our patrol car and our fuel and the maintenance for our vehicle. Everything else comes out of my pocket. Even though, like I said, we cover a lot of agencies, they don't really contribute to everything. Everybody says they're broke and don't have money. Imagine that. So any resources that we can get outside of it really helps us out. And like I said, Wade here has got a friend who's looking at, possibly helping donate money to get a better equipped vehicle. Our vehicle suffered an engine loss last year, and we replaced that through GoFundMe. But the car is still an 09, and things are starting to break. So a SUV would be a more appropriate vehicle. We also work for CAL FIRE as part of their peer support unit. And whenever a major fire occurs, we're one of the first calls that are made. And minimally, it's a 14-day deployment. So that means gear has to be loaded up for Kepi and I for that deployment. And it's usually a lot. The trunk of that car can only hold so much. The campfire and the car fire, we were out there on those incidents for close to 30 days. So getting a newer vehicle is going to be a huge thing. And this contribution is just going to be added to our fund through the city. And eventually, it'll help us cover some of my costs. So to the 100 Club, I thank you very much and appreciate everybody's support in town.
Thank you.
just want to say, I want to express my thanks to Officer Duvall and Kathy for all the work that they've done, just comforting people that are in their time of need. We talked about it the last time you got the award, and it's just very much appreciated what you do. It's a hard job, and you do it very well. Thank you to the 100 Club as well for their donation. Good
Thank
job.
you all. Thank you.
We'll move on now to our discussion items. The first one has to do with getting direction from the council requested by the Winters Pewter Creek Committee. Kurt Vlasic, Chair of the Winters Pewter Creek Committee.
Hello, everyone. The purpose of this, we've been having, you all know about the great project we completed on the creek, Rich Maravich completed, we supported. But we've sort of been having an identity crisis as of late. And I wanted just to get in front of council. Bill and I talked with Carol, and we basically want to throw out this concept to you guys, well, we don't want to throw out a concept. We want to get feedback from you. What do you want us to do? We have an amazing amount of talent on that committee. We are kind of, right now, we've got a few things on our plate. We act as a community forum or a public forum on issues related to the creek, but we're down to almost maintenance. So we're kind of the victims of our own success. We would like to expand our role, but you guys impaneled us. So we want you guys, I don't want answers tonight. I wanted to just get this, and so did Bill. We wanted to get this in front of council, take it back, think about it. Maybe we have a retreat, some sort of meeting where we just have council there with our committee and throw some ideas around. Rich Maravich has an idea, and I think talked to Councilwoman Lauren about it, about Dry Creek and expanding kind of what we've been defined sort of between the bridges and the project, the park project between the bridges, but expanding it upstream to deal with invasive weeds. We still have some unresolved and uncompleted issues or projects from the master plan update. One is a pedestrian bridge. So if you guys come up with a couple of $1 million of funding, we can make that. We'd be happy to take credit for it. And the South Bank Trail. That would ideally, we have a loop trail still in the books, still planned out. So anyway, I don't need suggestions tonight, but I just wanted to get you guys thinking about it. And we'll talk to Mayor Biazzi, and we'll maybe get a date together where we can put our heads together if that's the best forum. So happy to entertain questions if you have any.
Questions? Councilmember Anderson.
Yes. Kurt, sometime in the past, there was an effort made to put a crossing attached to the freeway crossing. Is that still viable?
It's viable. I honestly can't remember I think Caltrans said it was possible. They would have to study it more. We didn't really pursue it beyond that. But what he's talking about is attaching a third pedestrian crossing, free span, so we don't have to permit it with the Corps of Engineers and water quality and all the things that go along with those kind of projects. But one alternative was to actually tie a pedestrian bridge to the 505 bridges. So it's still on the books. We can still certainly look at it. I don't know if it would be less expensive or 10 times more expensive dealing with a Caltrans bridge. Honestly, don't know.
Yeah. I believe we all got this email earlier today from Rich Maravich about some ideas he had that go along with some of the stuff you were talking about. He came up with a new name, Winters Natural Resources Committee. So changing your name. But I like your idea of maybe you know, we get together and hash out, you know, a new mission plan for you guys. And, because we'd like to keep you all busy somehow.
Yeah, well,
So,
we enjoy the work we're doing, but when it comes down to weed abatement, it's hard to get people to the meetings. And
But I think
Rich has been,
bringing Dry Creek in would be,
yeah,
you know, a nice
Yeah.
addition to what you guys do. So.
it would, and it's not outside our purview. I mean, it is at the moment, but it's pretty easy to dovetail that kind of activity. Yeah, so there's all kinds of things we can talk about, but just wanted to plant that seed.
I said something.
Yes.
If it's not that attractive to talk about Arundo and weed abatement, it might be fun to talk about having maybe a wildlife camera to track what's in the wildlife corridor that is Dry Creek. Aside from reducing the weeds and doing maybe a bioswales, we could also start gathering data of what's living there.
Yeah, that might be a double-edged sword.
After the work's done,
All these things, they're
Yeah.
great, you know, there is an ongoing monitoring program through UC Davis. There's some money coming in from Solano County Water Agency for the weed abatement, but these are ongoing projects that are great. We promised them to the public that we would monitor the wildlife out there, that we would, you know, do regular bird and fish surveys. Those are being done. So it's just kind of, we got a great thing going. We're just sort of spinning the plate, right? And so we're looking for some other challenges. So put us to work.
I really do. I would like to say that I've been on this committee since it was formed in 2006, I believe. Been a lot of things that have been accomplished, and this committee has really done a great job, I think. You know, working with the streamkeeper, and he gets a lot of the credit for getting the money. Number one, it took getting the money, getting these grants, so that we could get a trail in there that we could actually walk on and roll on and do whatever we want and be able to get through there. It used to be all blackberries and Arundo, and just, it wasn't a place that you wanted to go down. And we now have, it's one of the best amenities I think our community has. And this committee has played a key role in getting all that accomplished. And I think keeping it going, getting some ideas from the council members, I think is a good idea to get some feedback on what direction we go to now. I think, like you said, we have several more projects to complete to be able to finish the master plan, getting that South Bank Trail, getting a crossing down there. But all that is gonna take money, so one of the things I think we're gonna need to focus on is how do we go after more grant money with, I think, the streamkeeper retiring soon, with Carol Ciana, the city's rep, will be retiring soon as well, so we're gonna need to get some new blood in there and see what we can do to bring some money in and do some more projects down there. But I think definitely we need to keep it going, and I know, you know, the frustrations have been in the last year. It's been hard to get people to come to the meetings, even though it only meets every other month. But we have a number of world-renowned experts on that committee, and we need to get on that and get feedback from them while we have them and they're willing to serve on this committee and get information from them, so.
But yeah, I think to keep them engaged, we need to keep them challenged. So,
Yes.
yeah. And maybe grant writing is one of the things we can discuss. Okay. Oh, sorry.
There's an enormous amount of data that's been collected on different species, coordinated out of UC Davis, Maine. And the data was collected as part of the court, basically. What's interesting, and this came up at the last LPCCC meeting in Vacaville. But, for example, nest boxes for birds. There's a nest box highway, they call it. Are you familiar?
Yeah, that's great.
And that's one thing that you take, it's already in existence, and through the efforts of Maybe Norman Trump, because it runs the program at UC Davis. She's been collecting data just on nest boxes before the dam was built.
Hmm.
That time, start gathering the information. And then periodically, I don't know, every couple of years or whatever, they go through and these same spots, going up and down the creek. For example, with birds and other animals. There was discussion of wildlife. I think they have some photography collected on that. So, what I want to emphasize is that this committee should be looking at the whole watershed. To avoid future districts.
Yeah, well, we are certainly, that's another role we play right now is coordinating with other environmental organizations. But Rich, I spent about 45 minutes on the phone with Rich today and Rich Maravich, and he said that he just ran across another group from UC Davis that he didn't even know existed. And he warned me that there are literally hundreds of these groups. So trying to avoid duplicative efforts is absolutely key.
Yeah, one of the latest appearances on the study is they identified 15 different species of bats.
Oh, really? I hadn't heard that.
There is a minute that they came up with some technology to pull the sound out of the air. And identify it in that manner. You just don't know what's going to come
Yeah,
out.
there's some great stuff. We're very fortunate in that there is some money for ongoing monitoring. And, we have some tasks to do. We're not lacking for, repetitive work. We're just looking for the next big challenge. So give that some thought. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the public? Ms. Loudon?
As a senior, I went down to the creek about 4 years ago because of the duck race. I had a hard time going down.
Okay.
It was I fell down about 13 years ago and really ruptured my shoulder. And so I'm very hesitant. I would love to go down, and there might be other seniors that would love to go down. So I don't know if there's a place that we could comfortably go down and really enjoy the whole creek. I don't know.
Have you seen the new ramp?
Yes,
that they
there
put
is
in?
a place.
Like I said, 4 years
Yeah.
ago, and then I said, I am not doing this again because I don't want to go to the hospital.
We have a much better ramp.
So maybe there should be conversations with the seniors here and let them know about that.
That's a good
You
idea.
know about that. I don't know about that, and I'm very active with the seniors. And I know a lot of the seniors love to go out and walk around and everything. So just trying to give you
Yeah,
an
that's
idea.
actually a great
Yeah,
suggestion. Thank you.
that's good.
Thank
And
you.
it's probably a lesser known thing that we have that
Yes.
ramp that, it's another project that Rich Maravich has taken on. That was part of one of the grants that we got for this work, and there wasn't enough money to do it. But he has come together with his own efforts, and he's put in somewhat of a ramp. It's a good starting point. It's much easier to get down there because before, I'm with you, I couldn't get down there at all.
Yeah.
I can at least get down there to the lower part of the creek now. It's an improvement, but yeah, getting that word out to others in the community as well as everyone else who doesn't know about it is a good idea.
And even this morning, Rich, in our conversation, Rich has extended it. I think he's doubled the length, he said.
Yeah.
And he wanted you to go test it.
Yeah, I did. And I
Oh,
will-
you did?
I
Okay.
will provide him with some more.
Good.
Good. Anyone else would like to speak? Yes.
Put in our card.
Kate Laddish, 400 Morgan Street, number 21. And
So for the last several years, I've been a member of the Winters Pewter Creek Committee, unlike our chair and our mayor. I haven't been on it since 2006. And so I've been there for the much easier part than all of you who were there when the committee was really deeply involved in designing it. It's an example of what a special place it is. I was at a medical appointment in Davis today, and in the middle of the appointment, the provider said, "Hey, so Winters, now, so have you been along the creek?" And it's like, yeah, as a matter of fact, yes, I have. That she was in town for dinner and a show and stumbled across it and just was so excited that she remembered it a few weeks later. So it's a tremendous resource. The discussion within the Creek Committee about what we would do going forward started with when Carol suggested that because of her upcoming retirement, it might, and because of the way that the initial projects were wrapping up, it could be a good time to consider whether or not the committee ends or continues. And the committee's response to that was, well, let's do strategic planning so we can talk about what we're going to do going forward. So there's a lot of excitement and enthusiasm within members of the committee to really find a way to sink our teeth into something going forward. I'll echo what our chair said about that there is a lot of expertise on there, whether it's people who have a deep understanding of some of the different scientific aspects of it. There are also people who really have the expertise in what it is to be a property owner along the creek, which is a really important knowledge base to bring into the discussion. Some of the ways that the committee has been functioning in the few years that I've been on it is that it is one of the only places that the different organizations doing work along the creek come together and share what they've been doing. And so it's really a nexus between these different organizations. Chris Rose comes from Solano Resource Conservation District. Somebody from Pewter Creek Council comes. There are a number of different organizations that come, and of course we hear about what the city is doing. But it's informational. It's something that's coming in. And so one of the ways that we're looking for direction is what then does the committee do with that information? And how can we be more of a resource to you, to the Planning Commission, to staff, and to other organizations? I think something that's come up in discussion also is that because there are a lot of people and organizations doing work along the creek, that it's important for everybody to keep in mind what the impacts may be. There are a lot of people doing good work, doing it well, and sometimes the effects of it ends up being at odds with the other, or just makes it so that people might be doubling up on their efforts. I mentioned was made of weeds. Well, what are we doing in terms of the weed monitoring? And is activity in one area actually exacerbating a weed problem as defined by somebody else's understanding of it? And also, for example, what's happening up on the streets? And, if we flush fire hydrants, how does that impact when the water gets down to the creek level? And is there erosion? If there is, then what do we do to mitigate that? And so I think the Creek Committee can continue to be a place for that sort of discussion going forward. So thank you for your consideration, and I think it's a valuable organization. I look forward to us renewing and reinvigorating our mission going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing none. Thank you very much for your feedback, and I think let's try to work on a way to get together with the committee and exchange some ideas on figuring out what direction we want to go. Thank you. Okay, next agenda item we have is the Climate Action Development Board appointment process. Mr. Flores.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm here speaking to you again this evening about the Climate Action Plan Development Board. You might recall that in December, the city put together a great initiative to have the board actually established, but silly me didn't plan for how that's going to come about, so that's why I'm here again this evening. In your staff report you received, I suggested that the council consider forming a subcommittee based on council members that would want to volunteer for this subcommittee. I would work with these two council members on providing them the applications that have already been received for the board, and help facilitate coordinating interviews if they wished and desired to coordinate interviews with applicants with the submitted applications. So I'm here this evening to hopefully pitch the idea to all of you. I know you're all very busy and have all these other laundry list of chores that you have to do. But I'm asking for a little bit of time and hopefully would like to receive a target date that I can use moving forward. Right now, I'm kind of throwing the ball around. In March is when I would like to have the first board meeting. So this would be a quick turnaround and selection process if that worked well with the two subcommittee members. So if there's any questions about things that I might be able to clarify, I wanted to keep it pretty brief, but let me know if you have questions. I'm happy to answer them.
Yes, Councilmember Mann.
Do you have applications already?
Yes.
And how many applicants are we talking about?
So there's 11 that were submitted. The application period ran from early January to February 3rd for the board membership positions. I've also approached different community organizations. I went to the Hispanic Advisory Committee, Buda Creek Committee, Planning Commission. Planning Commission has provided a liaison member to participate in future meetings. I'm still waiting to hear back from other community organizations, but I do know that there is one candidate moving forward with that. So we do have a set of applications, and I should remind you that the board is going to consist of 5 members. So there is some selection process that needs to happen with the amount of applications that we've received. So. Mm-hmm.
What about the student liaison that we talked about? So have you advertised at the school at all and any feedback?
Yes, I reached out to the school and I partnered with an instructor there. She distributed the outside youth version of the application to students there, and I don't believe any had submitted any applicants. I reached out to the instructor, didn't hear back from her whether or not she had received any on her end. So I don't believe we've received any student applications. In order for the board to function as it was written, it's not required that they be on the board for the decision-making processes. It was just suggested as an optional participatory role.
Okay. Questions?
So you're looking for 2 council members to review the 11 applicants and make a suggestion for the top 5?
Yes, and then following that, come back to a future council meeting, present their top 5 suggestions to the larger council, so council could make a determination of the appointment process and appointing these 5 members as board members for the board.
You had your tentative first meeting scheduled, I think, for the 19th of March, is that correct?
That's correct.
So it would be nice to have those appointees prior to that.
Yes.
No, definitely a lot of time to set up interviews for 11. So are there any council members who would like to be on in that interview selection process, or how would you like to proceed with these appointments?
I've been so excited about this and so loud about it for so long. I think if I don't say I want to do this, they'll wonder if I'm sleeping. So yes, I want to do this.
I don't want to take anybody's place, but if nobody else is really interested, I would.
Sounds like we have 2 council members who will coordinate the selection process, meet with the applicants, however you guys want to do it, make a recommendation back to council. We'll try to have all your members appointed before that March 19th meeting.
Okay.
All right, if possible, we'll do all we can, right?
So maybe we could have an email conversation
Tomorrow morning. So.
Tomorrow morning?
8
Great.
o'clock.
Perfect.
Thank you for
I can't wait.
volunteering. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Christopher. Okay, next discussion item we have is discussion for appointment of procedure to fill the planning commission vacancy.
Maybe just as an introduction, Mayor and Council, with the intergovernmental agreement that the council and approves and the city's going to enter, we're going to have a vacancy on the planning commission with Commissioner Lisa Baker. There will absolutely be a conflict between her role with Yellow Housing and implementation of that agreement and her ability to serve on the planning commission. So there's going to be a vacancy. I guess we already have a subcommittee of two individuals on the council. From that, and anybody can jump in anytime that you want to. Sure. The last time you did interviews was back in June, and Planner has turned it over to the subcommittee because they're the ones who are in charge of this, and I'll stop talking.
Okay, with that said, Councilmember Lauren and myself make up that committee. We did the interviews and the appointments on the last go around, and we have met and discussed this already, as I mentioned in my comments earlier. And so the immediate plan, we'd like council to go along with if possible, is that we would open up for any new applicants for a short period of time. And any new applicants, we'll take a look at those and maybe do some fresh interviews and then come back to you with a recommendation for somebody to fill Lisa's spot. I don't know if we could make all that happen by the 3rd, so it might have to be the second meeting in March.
And just for clarification, I think the remainder of her term is just a little over a year, is that right?
Yeah, it's July of 21. So yeah, a year and a half left. So.
So we're looking for applicants to fill that for a year and a half, get a taste of what it's like to be on the plan commission.
So Tracy, you can make that happen as far as.
I'll get the ball rolling.
Instead of question, were there applicants from the last time?
Yes, and we're gonna look back at those as well.
And that's what I wanted to
See if you're still interested.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Ethan, do we need to make a motion and approve this, or we just, sorry?
I would take public comment, but other than that, you can give direction by consensus for the committee to move forward with that.
Okay, thank you. So, is there anyone in the public that would like to comment on this? Once? Okay, seeing none? It sounds to me like we have consensus from the council that we move forward with looking over past applications, recent past, as well as opening up for new ones. Fill that position. Thank you. The next item we have is the community engagement review.
Mayor and Council, as you're aware, on January 21st, we held a joint workshop with the City Council and the Planning Commission. The idea was to get some input from folks on the overall development of the community engagement strategy for a number of upcoming projects we're doing. Tonight, I'm just kind of reporting back on that and maybe giving you a framework for some of the input that we've received and to get any additional input on kind of moving forward. Council's not adopting anything tonight. Staff just wants to use this as a check-in, and the result from all this will invariably come in the form of looking at some of the options that are available, putting together an overall plan for how we might be able to move some of these things forward with the upcoming projects, and then going forward and implementing. So the what? There are really four key projects that are going to come up where we will want to really engage the community. The upcoming housing element, the SB2 grants on housing, the specific plan that we've included in the SB2 grant and the climate action process that Chris just talked a little bit about. So basically, we'll put together a community engagement strategy for each one of these based on the framework from the work that we've been doing. So from the responses, one of the things I did is from the responses we've received, I sent out, I included my Friday update, I included on our social media. Literally, I gave all the draft information that we had received out to the community. Like I mentioned, I did a little bit to take out all the silly stuff, but we gave the raw data, and I sent for the most part, what was a framework of a draft of all of this. And I received some incredible responses, and two people that I want to call out, well known in the community. One is Sally Brown, the other is Deborah D'Angelo. They came back and, oh my goodness, they absolutely helped provide an overall framework. Sally just took a machete to what I had sent out, and kind of a combination of emails between Sally, Deborah, and myself have helped put together the framework of what is in the packet tonight. It went from the questions that we asked everybody to the framework for an actual approach. And I credit the input that I got from both Sally and Deborah. It was absolutely awesome. So who do we need to reach? Well, in it, we're looking at the idea of a broad-based outreach, city residents and rural folks, business owners, millennials. How we get to young people is really important. Seniors, students would be the spectrum. A lot of outreach to our Hispanic community, underrepresented folks, key stakeholders, which many of the decisions on these things who would be affected. Trying to get to people who don't attend meetings and are not engaged, and then the idea of outreach to potential residents. The how do we generate the participation? Obviously, a lot of outreach and advertising through social media, websites, newsletters. The idea that we would partner with the Winters Express for editorials, news articles, and try and come up with an approach that balances who we're trying to outreach and come up with articles and information for that. Also partnering with a lot of the local organizations, whether it's PTA, Rotary, Optimus, Lions, going out to all of them. The where to outreach to folks, and really the how. The idea of facilitated workshops, actual participation where people come in and are actually helping formulating many of the recommendations to allow for a diversity of input on things. Getting out of the typical locations. A lot of the comments at the January 21st meeting said, hey, you got to get out of City Hall. You've got to go to places where people are at. So going to businesses all the way down to door, community events, the idea that we will actually go out to the soccer field while people are there, trying and actually survey folks where they're at. Obviously, the access to more convenient participation, the idea of surveys, online surveys, remote participation, and the idea of one-on-one meetings. We talked about some incentives, the idea of childcare, offering food, those types of things to get people there. But one of the most important things on the overall approach, and this is something that really resonated in the survey stuff that we got from folks on the 21st, the idea that our approach has to be very, very broad-based. It has to be interactive. It has to be family-friendly, and it has to be convenient. Those are going to be some of the driving forces to the approach to how we would design getting input from folks. The incentives. If you really dig down into much of the responses that folks brought up, They talked from the 21st, the idea of having quality topics. We need to let people really want to come and participate. Validating that people's input is actually being heard and received, and somehow how that's going to be folded into everything. The meetings have to be worthwhile, and they have to be at variable times. There's better times for seniors, there's better time for students, there's better times for working folks. We have to vary the times of the meetings, make it easy for people to want to participate. And then I think in absolutely everything, everybody said provide food. If you actually look at the responses that everybody get, it involved a lot of beer and wine. So
It is winners.
Yeah.
And bacon.
So the key elements of the overall engagement plan. What do you want to get from them? And we've included that, the idea of producing some type of action plan, and that it has to be constructed. When you meet with the folks, when you do some type of group meetings, that there's actually going to be something tangible that comes from that. The elements have to be fact-based and data-driven. They have to be informative to people. The idea of making sure that people are informed, and then you can formulate things. The idea of active listening. The meetings have to be inclusive. That means that some of our meetings most certainly should be in Spanish, and making sure that all aspects of the community have a chance to not only be informed, but also to participate. They have to be results oriented. And one of the things that absolutely came out of the meetings on the 21st was the ability to chart a course for the future on things. And then finally, the feedback to participants. It has to be immediate, and it has to be done frequently. It has to be sent through a combination of different media. Not everybody looks at social media. The idea of direct mail, some type of a newsletter that would go out to folks, probably our utility bill newsletter will get a workout, but it has to come in multiple media forms. And finally, everything has to be in English and Spanish. Some of the options that we've put in are the idea of an advisory committee. The idea of an advisory committee would be a group that, as we move through things, we can vet stuff from. Does the survey make sense? Actually get some eyes that are not, city planner eyes or consultant eyes, something that people can go, yeah, I get that. The idea of being able to catch any types of inherent biases that somebody might not be completely comfortable with. The idea of charrettes. Charrettes, fancy name for small group meetings, small groups working together on various things. That gets to a lot of the ideas in the overall strategy that you're going to have people actually participating. It's not going to be go and listen and see whatever the decision is. It has to be facilitated. It has to be multifaceted. It has to allow input. The idea of focus groups, where you do something in a smaller setting where it's interactive. Without question, the idea of active listening and active participation go hand in hand with the idea of having something where people can maybe go outside their bounds. Oftentimes meetings have very focused results that they need to get, very focused questions. The difference with some of the focus groups would allow us to have people go outside the bounds of it. God forbid the people that are actually participating in the meetings can help guide the outcomes of those meetings. And that would be there. The idea of participatory mapping. SACOG has a vision, has a program called Envision, which actually allows people to go in and this would come as far as some of the specific and land planning stuff, where you would actually go in and you can move land uses around on a city map. it's actually pretty cool because it allows people to look at the idea of densities, land uses, those types of things, so they could actually help paint the picture. And then finally, the idea of scenario planning. In the scenario planning, what you're doing is the idea of you using all the what ifs on various things if you start moving things around. That's accomplished through the Envision software, but also just, I've had somebody looking at the overall program, and it's actually fun. The thing about the scenario planning is that it can't all be done. It's not like Nintendo or anything. You just can't do it that quick. There are some things that people would have to draw, and then it would take a little bit of time for somebody to actually draw the map, come up with the scenario, and see if it works or not. So, and then finally, the idea of surveys. The idea that as we go out, if you can imagine at soccer or Little League or at a coffee shop or sort of big wine in a wine tasting room. The idea that you put some computers in there and I don't know, you offer them a taste of wine and have them fill out the surveys and answer those things. But the idea is the idea of taking public engagement to people. And that's my last slide, I promise. So what are some resources that are out there? I lost my page. So we do have resources that are available to us that can come from some of the professional organizations. Sacramento Area Council of Governments, better known as SACOG. SACOG has the Envision software, and they have what they call their civic lab. The idea, in many ways, is kind of an educational forum to allow people to start generating input. The Institute or the Local Government Commission, one of the things that they have that's really fun is it's a community choice survey. You sit there and you go through, I like this or I like that. And it's a way to make it very easy for people to go through, take surveys and actually give their input into what they like or don't like. The Institute for Local Government has a ton of information. They actually have a facilitator workshop program for folks. Imagine the idea that we bring in somebody to do some forms of charrettes. ILG actually has kind of a workshop on teaching people how to be the table facilitators. So that's where we get some volunteers and some people that'll be kind of the table monitors to help people go through some of the stuff. League of California Cities has a ton of information. The idea of a private facilitator. One of the most important things is that when we actually get into small groups and those types of things, the idea that there's facilitation. In the RFP that the council approved and we just sent out this week regarding the housing element, part of what they're doing is for the housing element, there'll be some pretty focused workshops, and we will take all these elements and kind of bleed them in there and say, okay, we need to include these things in what we do. So with that, I appreciate any input. If there's anything that we missed on these things, again, huge kudos to both Sally and Deborah. Over the course of about 2.5 days, the three of us really kind of kicked a lot of this stuff around to try and bring it into action items towards an overall strategy. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or take any feedback.
Okay. Questions? Questions, feedback? I would say, I think it's going to be crucial that we get this strategy together. These 4 items that you mentioned, the housing element, the SB2 grants, the climate action plan, specific plan, that's one of the reasons we want to get as much input as we can from the people in town. And it's going to take, I think, it sounds like all these different ways of gathering the information, it's gonna take a lot of volunteers to help us out. So people in town who care about winters, we're gonna need you to step up and help us get the information out and get the strategy going. I know one of the things that has worked well for some of the things we've done in the past has been the facilitated workshops. We did one, I think, when we were doing the master plan on the creek. We do 2 of those for that. And we had down at the community center, people could come in, we broke into small groups, and everybody had their own ideas on what it should look like down there. We did that for the Complete Streets plan, and I thought it was great because you had a facilitator there on the outside, presenting different types of information, giving the groups, they break up into small groups where they, sit around a table, have discussion. I think those work very well.
We did that for several.
Yeah, so those seem like
Town
they
master
work
plan
well in
too.
the past, and I think would be good for some of these issues that we're gonna be looking at.
Just have a brief comment. I want to say thank you to the city manager for putting this together. I think that this is a great demonstration of the kind of work council does, and the kind of work that we need to do together with the community. With that said, the one term that really stood out for me is validate that people are heard. And I think that this is a great process for people to be engaged, who love this town, who want to be part of the decision-making, to participate, and for us as a council in the city to really validate that you're heard. So that step, I think, is one of the most important steps in the process. So thank you for making that a priority.
Yeah, I'm impressed that you were able to pull all this together in the short time that we've had, because this is a really good report from the information we gathered at that workshop, and we pull it all together in this format, along with Sally and Deborah helping you. I think you've done a great job putting it into some type of form that we can use. Is there anyone in the public that would like to comment on this? I think we have one back, Kate.
I will tell you that Kate also kind of belatedly, I think she was a little under the weather, but ultimately Kate did get some of the input, and so, thank you.
Right. Kate Laddish, 400 Morgan Street, number 21. I was going to try to resist because, but actually I'd like to echo something that was said, which is that the Complete Streets process was really valuable. And one of the things that I think made it excellent was that there was an outside facilitator who was just completely independent. I mean, their role was to be there and facilitate. And that one of the things that was excellent with that was the breaking out in small groups, and it was everybody from different walks of life within town sitting down and talking about how to solve things around or along Grand Avenue. And you had to come to consensus, at least enough of a consensus within your small group to be able to present what you discussed about, and in many cases include recommendations, and then to present that to the larger group. Within that, it got it so that community members were actually speaking with each other about this. And whether or not you came into it with the same opinion, you had to talk about it in just a conversational, problem-solving way, and that's fantastic. So I look forward to something like that happening as we go into these next projects. And then also, as Councilmember Lauren said, I think one of the really key pieces of this is making sure that people not only participate, but that it's demonstrated how their input will be used, and that there's, as we go into these different projects, that there is really a mechanism in place for how that input will be used and what weight that'll be given as we go into these. And so thank you again to staff for doing this. I look forward to all of us participating as we move forward to these different projects. Thanks.
Thank you.
I got a couple of comments, but first, I want to bring something up that's been talked about a lot of times ever since I've been on the council, but we've never been able to do anything about it. But then Mr. Lagnatuda, Bill, brought it up at the last meeting about our camera system. And the need to improve that and going to all these other meetings, everybody's got a better system than we do. And I'd like to see us get that improved because people that can't come to the city council meetings can watch it if it's watchable. When it used to be on the cable channel, if I wanted to watch a planning commission meeting or something, I couldn't turn it up high enough to hear it. So the audio video definitely is a big piece of this, and it would get people more engaged if they knew they could watch it and hear it clearly and see it clearly. And since we got somebody volunteering to improve that system for us, I say we should take advantage of that volunteer.
Is he gonna pay for the equipment to do it?
He's probably got it in his garage.
They probably do.
You pay, I'll consult.
GoFundMe.
Move the camera there on that wall.
There's also a
Start.
And I want your help on this, but there's also a system that we could borrow from Supervisor Don Saylor. He has invested money in a portable system, so we had to record something. It is, I'm sure there's a fee, but he has the equipment and it has very good sound.
Would be good to use when we do workshops like we did in the conference room next door, that we can have a system over there that would work well for that, yeah.
It will cost money.
Yep, it does all cost money.
And there's some seniors that don't come to the city council meeting because they can't hear you. And I know at St. Anthony's, we have these things for the ears and such, and it's a wonderful system. So just sharing.
Thank you. Yes.
And I just received a report from someone who's watching it on my texting that they can't see what's on the board, what we can see here, or what you can see up there.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if that could be incorporated into what the home viewers are seeing.
Yeah.
Get it done, Bill.
And I know there's a lot of technology out there that's way better than what we have.
Yes.
That, like you said, it all costs money, and we'll have to see how we can work that into our budget to make it happen in the future.
That'd be a good partnership with the Express for distribution.
All good ideas, thank you. So, I think this-
You know, on the AV. No, I don't disagree. I don't appreciate that. I don't disagree.
No, I know you're not disagreeing. Economics.
You know, we're in 100-year-old building. Previously, the way that things were done were through the cable company. That's how, wherever you go, they used to have a cable television franchise, and that's where you got the cameras and the ability to actually broadcast. It's only been a couple of years since we were able to upgrade our internet. When the PG&E facility came in, one of the biggest investments that the city made was we actually pulled a fiber line out to our public safety facility, which included going through here. That's the only way that we've been able to even broadcast anything through the internet. Winters, as far as broadband goes, is just a complete hole. People who live in Winters Ranch was the first one to actually get fiber into their houses, but the rest of the town is not great. It's actually bad. But you know, the ability for us to do things in this room has been difficult, and also the money. I'm sorry, you know, everybody always will talk about other jurisdictions. They've got a lot more money than we do.
Yeah.
They just do. And, you know, I know that everybody's tired of saying me, but there's a reason why I'm the only one working on a lot of things. And, you know, as we go to different locations, the ability for this stuff to become portable and everything, I would love to do Liz Bang. I would. I think it would answer a lot of questions for folks. But, you know, as, you know, we can try to do our best. We added the webcam to see if that would do. Most people don't have cable television anymore. They've got some type of a streaming service or what have you. But I mean, we'll try to do our best, but, you know, yeah, I'm sure that people can design just a phenomenal system. I bet it would be awesome, but there are some limitations to what we have for various things. So we'll do our best with what we have on some of the things to try and get it there.
Okay. Yeah, I think all this community engagement information that you put together, something we really need, and, you know, there's so much feedback that we got at that workshop that I think is something we're gonna be able to use in the very near future.
Not to jump ahead, one of the things that we're gonna do is we're gonna take this, I'm gonna put this out on our social media, it's gonna go up on the website, there's gonna be a chance for people to comment on this a little bit more. I don't wanna get ahead of various things, but one of the things that I think would enable us, I'm not looking for another city council interview committee or anything, but the idea of maybe putting together an advisory committee on some of this stuff. My goodness, Kate is always really good, but also, you know, getting people like Sally and Deborah and those folks to kind of come in. You know, it's not like I'm not going rogue or anything, but I'd like to start putting together a group of people. One of the things that we're going to be doing is trying to make everything very transparent. We got to get people involved in some of these things. We're going to be having a meeting within the next couple of weeks of our staff team to start coming up with the actual work programs for the SB2 grants, for the housing element, all of that. What I want to do, I want to bring people right into the process. These things are going to be coming to the council, but I would like to get some of that participation in really early so that people kind of have an understanding, we can come up with some ideas so that we can weave all of it into the fabric of our overall work program for these things. When we do the contract for the housing element consultant, we are going to have an outline of how we're going to, the community engagement strategy for that. So when they walk in, bang, it's going to go right away on the stuff. So anyway, if it's okay with the council, I'm going to kind of advertise for folks who might want to be on the advisory committee on this stuff.
It's okay with that? That's a good idea.
Full support.
Okay. That's our last discussion item. We'll move on to the city manager's report.
Just two items. Starting next week, a lot of Chrome 6 in my future. Starting on the 24th, but I think I have 4 different meetings in Sacramento where I'm going to be going and meeting with representatives of the State Water Resources Control Board. I'm a part of a team of folks that are doing this, but the idea that this will get very real for us very quickly as during 2020, they are going to be considering all the new maximum contamination limits, the MCLs. We're looking at Chrome 6. Carol ran out of here, but the TCP 123, basically from the agricultural pollution that we have that's hitting our wells, those things are all coming up. And the chromium 6 thing, I can tell you that I've met with our water regulator, and on our licensing, we just had the review of all of our wells and everything. Carol's not here, so I'll say something nice about her. But Carol, we got a wonderful report on everything, except for the fact that we do have some ag pollution. in well 5, which is the one on Neiman Street, which is not a good thing. But the person I talked to from the Regional Water Quality Control Board, there's a less expensive treatment that they have down, that they've been piloting down in the Coachella Valley. And he's told me that they won't accept that. It's what they call the Stannous chloride thing, maybe another lawsuit. But the project that we would have to look back would be going back to the ionic exchange that we were talking about before, which is not a good thing. I'm gonna have meetings with Solano County Water Agency on various water options, but anyway, starting next week, if either A, wondering why I'm wearing a suit every day, or B, why I'm not here, it's because we're gonna be dealing with chromium 6. And then the final thing, we're going to be adding a transparency page onto the city's website. And one of the things that has stirred many opinions regarding various things has been articles about emails on things. So you know what I'm going to do? Everything, all the emails and everything that I get, whether it's from the Keep Winners folks or from any interactions that I have with major developers on things, they're all going on the website. I'm going to put those right on there. It'll be a nice
God bless
section.
you, sir.
And I'm going to be, yeah, just so that everybody knows, well, Taylor knows. People want stuff, and I think it's important that people know what the city manager's telling folks. So guess what? We're going to put it all out there, and I think that'll be very important because it's an important way for people to get information. So look for that probably within the next week. The first things are happening. So that's my report.
Thank you. Okay. Other comments or questions? I will adjourn the meeting at 8:07. Thank you, everyone.
Tracy, so I learned a lot about that.